In 1415, English archers rained death across the fields of Agincourt. Thousands of arrows whistled through the mist, a storm of wood and iron that decided the fate of empire. 600 years later, we're still doing the same thing, only now our arrows are pixels and our battlefields are digital. We line up in lobbies instead of trenches, we respawn instead of rot, and yet, whether it's a bow or a sniper rifle, we're tapping into the same ancient instinct to master chaos, to dominate the field, to survive. But here's the truth that game developers rarely confront. Every firefight you win, every tactical mechanic you exploit, has a history, one written in real blood. When real wars become virtual ones, something gets lost and something dangerous takes their place. Games love war, they worship it. They take what most chaotic human invention and compress it into perfect loops for fun. Reload, aim, win. But the real war, it's not fun. It's waiting, it's hunger, it's fear, bureaucracy, and exhaustion. Ask any historian, and they'll tell you armies don't march on courage, they march on calories. For every soldier with a rifle, there are 20 more carrying food, fuel, and medicine. But in games, those people don't exist. They've been erased for pacing. We glorify the moment of victory and skip the months of misery that make it possible. In the real world, heroes don't sprint. They crawl, they break, they starve, and they obey. Imagine if Call of Duty forced you to manage logistics. If your kill streaks depended on how many supply convoys made it through the snow. That would be war. It would be history. But no one's buying Battlefield, the supply line DLC. See, games like Battlefield 1 flirted with authenticity. They showed mud, fear, and smoke. But just when it started to hurt, the camera pulled back, and the spectacle took over. We kept turning suffering into scenery. And maybe that's the point. It's easier to admire a tragedy than to understand it. Easier to sell action than aftermath. But the closer you look at the reality of war, the more you realize how far games are from. Here's the thing. Even when developers don't mean to, they're pulling from real history. Every mechanic, every trope, every design choice is a descendant of something that once killed real people. Take the flanking bonus. Every RTS player knows it. Surround your enemy, and you deal more damage. That's not a design trick. That's Napoleonic warfare. Break the line, and fear spreads faster than bullets. You're not just winning the fight, you're collapsing their will to resist. Then there's morale. In Total War or Company of Heroes, your troops might flee when the battle turns. That's not fantasy either. Roman legions drilled for decades to resist panic, to hold formation while chaos raged around them. Their discipline was their superpower, and every time your digital units break, you're watching a shadow of those ancient fears play out in code. And what about your hero classes? The tanks, the healers, the supports? You didn't invent those in Overwatch. They're medieval archetypes. The knight with a shield, the clerk who heals, the archer who controls range. Modern hero shooters are medieval warfare with voice chat. Even the cover systems have history. Trench warfare taught soldiers to value every inch of earth, every wall, every doorway. Those lessons became a design philosophy. Your FPS cover mechanic? It's a digital trench. When you look closer, games are accidental museums, carrying fragments of real tactics, real trauma, and real innovation. Flanking, morale, suppression, even respawn systems. All echoes of history. Mechanics are memory. When you reward a player for outmaneuvering, you're rewarding them for reenacting centuries of human behavior, from the phalanx to the platoon. And maybe that's the beauty of it. Even when we try to escape history, we keep rebuilding it, one patch note at a time. Let's talk about what developers get wrong. Because even though they borrow from history, they rarely respect it. We've entered what I call Hollywood history syndrome, where every battle is noble, every cause is righteous, every soldier dies from something meaningful. But war isn't really like that. They're messy, confusing, and often meaningless. Like, ask a veteran what war feels like. It's boredom and fear, punctuated by seconds of terror. It's not glory, it's survival. But games can't sell survival. They sell satisfaction. See, real soldiers didn't teabag their enemies. They didn't shout, let's go, over orchestral music. They were too busy starving, freezing, or praying they'd make it home. This isn't to say games can't tell a serious story. A few have tried. Spec Ops, the line dared to make players question their own violence. This war of mine focused us to see war from the civilian side. And Valiant Hearts reminded us that love and loss are as much of a part of history as battle. But they're exceptions. Most studios play it safe. They trade complexity for clarity. And they make every war black and white. Because gray doesn't test well. And look, maybe that's the tragedy. The most people making these games love history, but the industry rewards myth. It rewards heroism over honesty. If a developer ever wants to truly capture the weight of war, they need to embrace everything that makes it uncomfortable: the fatigue, the bureaucracy, the moral uncertainty of the aftermath. Because war isn't just fighting, it's what comes after. What would it look like if the game ended not when you win, but when you rebuild? What if the real challenge was keeping peace, not making war? That would be revolutionary. Games shape how we remember history. If they distort it, they distort memory. When a generation learns about War One through a respawn screen, that's not education. That's repackaged mythology. When we make war entertaining, we risk forgetting what made it horrifying. But here's the paradox. Games are one of the best tools we have to understand history. They're interactive, immersive. They can make us feel the weight of decisions, the chaos of command, the cost of fatigue, the cost of failure. Like, imagine if more developers used that power to make players confront the truth instead of the fantasy. Imagine a campaign where running out of ammo meant surrender, not a checkpoint reload, where losing morale didn't mean game over. It meant facing the consequences of fear. History isn't boring. It's blood, it's betrayal, famine, and philosophy. It's politics, ego, desperation, and survival. The same ingredients that make great stories if you're brave enough to tell them. When we sanitize history, we lose empathy. When we turn it into a spectacle, we lose its meaning. And when we let entertainment define our memory, we lose part of ourselves. Developers have the power to preserve history, not just as battle, but its lessons. They can remind players that behind every strategy was a human being, and behind every victory, a tragedy. History doesn't need fixing, it needs remembering. In video games, the most powerful storytelling medium of our time, can do that, if we let them. So yeah, next time you snipe a guy from 200 meters, thank the longbowmen of Agincourt. You're basically playing their DLC. History doesn't fade, it respawns. Every patch, every sequel, every virtual battlefield is another chance for you to do it right, to stop repeating the same stories and start learning from them. Again, guys, stay creative, write something new, do something, make it new. Stop repeating the same thing over and over again.